Scooby Doo in Jungle Jeopardy by Jesse Leon McCann. Scooby Doo and his pals from Mystery Inc. were visiting Central America. One of Daphne's teachers, Professor Peabody, was an expert in archaeology, the science of uncovering ancient objects buried a long time ago. He was involved with a lot of other scientists in a dig deep in the jungle, and he had invited the kids to join him. "Daphne," Professor Peabody greeted them warmly, "I'm so glad you and your friends are here. The expedition is about to begin." "What are we looking for, Professor?" Daphne asked as they ventured into the lush jungle. "I've heard legends from the local natives about an undiscovered Mayan pyramid around here," the professor explained. "The other scientists think I am an old fool on a wild goose chase." "Like Professor, I don't see a pyramid, but there's some sort of old blocky place over there." Shaggy pointed to a spot through the trees and vines. An ancient building was barely visible. The professor was overjoyed. "My dear boy, that is a pyramid. A Mayan pyramid. You've found it." Their happy mood was soon cut short, however. The pyramid had a guardian, a fierce cat-like creature that came out snarling at them. And as it snarled, a volcano erupted. Scooby-Doo was ready to attack the creature. He didn't like mean cats, no matter how big they were. "Scooby, this is the first time we've had to convince you to run away," Fred said. "But we'd better retreat and think about this." They ran, with the snarling cat creature following right behind them. Luckily, about a quarter mile from the scientist's camp, the creature stopped chasing them. When Professor Peabody and the gang told the other scientists what they had seen, they all laughed. "It figures you'd find some kids to believe your crackpot theories," said a scientist named McGurty. "I'm a laughingstock," Professor Peabody said. "I need to bring back proof, not wild tales. I'm getting too old for this." "Nonsense," Daphne replied. "You just need a little help." "That's right," agreed Fred. "Let us figure out the mystery behind this cat creature, then you can get back to work." Soon the gang was back where they'd seen the creature. They passed some spooky-looking idols. Scooby did not like them one bit. "Let me get this straight. You are not afraid of 6-foot cats, but these hunks of rock are creeping you out?" Velma asked, smiling. "Yeah," replied Scooby. "You're right." Scooby was so scared he wouldn't go a step further, but Velma had an idea. "Wow, look at all the fresh fruit on the trees," she said. "Sure looks yummy." "You know, Scoob, Velma's right," Shaggy smacked his lips. "Like those goodies looking ripe for the picking." Yeah. Scooby licked his own lips. Scooby and Shaggy filled their arms with all kinds of fruit. Soon they couldn't see where they were going. "Look out!" cried the others, but it was too late. Zoinks! Down they fell. They hit the bottom of the pit with a hard thud. Luckily, it wasn't that far down. Their backside just got a little sore. The rest of the gang ran to the hole and looked down. "Stay there," shouted Fred. "We'll throw you down a light." Soon Shaggy and Scooby had a torch rigged up. It was a great relief that they didn't have to find their way out in the dark. But Shaggy was still nervous. "Like Scoob, I get the funny feeling we're being watched." Scooby gulped. Shaggy quickly lit the torch. Suddenly, they were surrounded by bats. Vampire bats. The torchlight had startled the sleeping creatures and sent them swarming through the cave. When the bats saw the yummy fruit on the ground, they just had to bite into it. The sight of the bats' sharp teeth biting into the fruit sent Shaggy and Scooby into a panic. "Zoinks!" cried Shaggy. "Let's get out of here fast, before we're next on the menu." Scooby nodded. "Real fast." They ran deeper into the cave, getting more and more lost. "Shaggy, Scooby, don't run away," Velma called. "The bats won't hurt you." "It's too late, they're gone," Fred said. "Let's climb down after them." But before they could, Velma made an interesting discovery. "Hey, this cave entrance looks like it. It leads down to the same place," she said to the others. "Let's go." "I'd like it a lot more if the cave didn't look like a cat," Daphne said, shuddering. Little did they know that they were being watched by a pair of eyes. Cat's eyes. Unaware they were being watched, the three friends headed for the cave entrance. Without warning, there came a rumbling sound. Daphne, Velma, and Fred looked up. An avalanche of heavy tree trunks was rolling their way. They had no choice but to run as fast as they could, staying just in front of the runaway logs. "Jeepers! That was a trap!" Daphne yelled above the noise. "Somebody cut those logs loose just when we got near." "Not only that, we're coming to a big river." Velma pointed ahead. "What will we do?" "The only thing we can do," Fred shouted. "Jump!" They jumped into the swiftly moving river and were carried away by the strong current. Splash! The logs rolled into the river after them. "Jinkies! Grab hold of a log and hang on!" Velma cried. They quickly climbed aboard a sturdy trunk and looked around. That made them feel better for a minute. Then they heard it. There was a roaring waterfall up ahead. The three kids didn't have a chance to escape the waterfall. Over they went. They plunged down, down, down. It was more than 100 feet to the bottom. Luckily, there was a deep pool at the bottom of the falls. Soon Fred, Daphne, and Velma had swam back up to the surface. "Boy, that was one lucky break." Fred started swimming ashore. "Come on, let's find Shaggy and Scooby." But as they swam to the shore, they suddenly didn't feel very lucky at all. Standing there were three cat creatures. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby were deep underground, trying to find their way out. The torch helped a lot, but they could only see a few feet in front of them. As they crept along, Shaggy kept hearing a funny hissing noise. "Like Scoob." "Do you hear that?" Shaggy asked. "It looks like someone left the gas on." Scooby listened. Then he gulped. "Ratty! Rat rat!" Scooby cried. "Snakes!" Shaggy laughed. Like, don't be silly, Scoob. Snakes don't hiss. Then Shaggy held the torch up higher. Right in front of them were hundreds of squirming, crawly creatures. Zoinks! Shaggy yelled. You meant snakes! Scooby and Shaggy knew they had to get away from the snakes as fast as possible. Unfortunately, they were surrounded. Like, now what? Shaggy said. We're going to end up as Snake Snack? Just then, Scooby noticed some steps carved into the stone wall behind them. He pulled Shaggy up the stairs and away from the snakes. They were safe. But now they had another problem. Their torch was sputtering and looked like it was going to go out. Not only that, they both thought they saw a chamber up ahead, guarded by some strange creatures. Finally, their torch went out. At first, Shaggy and Scooby were terrified. Then they realized they could still see. Light was coming from the chamber ahead. They quietly sneaked up to the chamber's entrance. Phew! The shadows they'd seen weren't creatures of all. They were just stone adults. When they looked around, their mouths dropped wide open. The entire chamber was an ancient Mayan temple. Scooby was just about to whoop with relief, but Shaggy quickly put his hand over Scoob's mouth. Like, quiet, Scoob, Shaggy warned in a whisper. Somebody lives here. Who do you think lit these torches? Right. Scooby was suddenly wide-eyed. Sorry, Raggy. Like, let's take a look around quietly, Shaggy replied. Shaggy and Scooby didn't have much of a chance to explore the chamber. Behind them, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching. The two friends quickly hid behind one of the huge idols. They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw who'd entered. Zoinks! Whispered Shaggy. It's those cat creeps, and they've got Fred and the girls. Grrr, Scooby growled. He really didn't like cats or creepy cat creatures, and now they had his friends. Like, it's nice you want to save our friends, Scoob, Shaggy said, holding Scoob back. But let's wait for a better chance, like maybe when we have an army with us. But Scooby pulled and pulled. Shaggy held tight onto his collar and pushed on the stone idol for support. Without meaning to, Shaggy pushed the statue over. Smash! The cats whirled at the noise. Oh, hi, Shaggy stammered. We're from Animal Control, just making sure your kitty licenses are up to date. The cats snarled and jumped towards them. Zoinks! Run, Scoob, before we become their new scratching posts. Scooby suddenly realized he was no match for the scary cat creatures. He ran. But while the cats went after him and Shaggy, Fred, Velma, and Daphne escaped. The three friends cut their bindings away on a sharp rock. Then they went searching for Scooby and Shaggy. They found them hiding in a cave with crystal in the walls. There were finely grained crystals under their feet too. Velma reached down and grabbed a handful. She tasted it. Just as I thought, we're in an underground salt mine. Like, you ever get the sinking feeling you were... Sinking? Shaggy gulped. It was true. The kids were sinking in the salt. And when the cats found them, it didn't matter. The gang couldn't run away because they were stuck in the salt. It was like quicksand. But the kids had another stroke of luck. Just after their heads went under, they slid a few feet and landed in a big pile of salt. Jinkies, said Vilma happily. There was a hole at the bottom of the salt pit. Come on, gang, Fred said, starting to walk away. We don't have much time to spare. Let's get out of here. They all followed Fred through a nearby tunnel. Before long, they found themselves in a gigantic round chamber with a hole at the top. I think we're in the middle of the volcano, Fred exclaimed, and it's hollow. Now, why would this equipment be here if only the cat creatures lived in the caves? Daphne wondered. That's a good question, Daphne, Fred answered, and that's just what we're going to find out. Let's look around. They started investigating the equipment, looking for clues. They hadn't gone very far when unexpectedly there came a deep, rumbling sound. Scooby looked up. Yikes! It's a monster! A monster? Said Velma. Don't be silly. There's no such thing as monsters. Zoinks! Then there's no such thing. It's right after us, cried Shaggy. Get in the cart and let's get out of here. Their cart gained speed as it went deeper underground. If they weren't being chased, it would have been fun, like a roller coaster. Velma turned to look behind. That's no monster. It's some sort of machine. A steam shovel. Jeepers! And there's a cat creature driving it, Daphne added. Luckily, the steam shovel couldn't go very fast. Soon the gang's cart had left it far behind. Right now, I'm really confused, Shaggy said. 6-foot cats who walk on 2 legs is one thing, but cats who drive? That's kooky, Fred pointed out. Oh, I think we're coming to the end of this ride. Fast. Bam! The cart hit the end of the tracks and the gang was spilled into a huge cavern. When they got up and shook off their dizziness, they were nothing less than amazed. Jinkies! Said Velma. Jeepers! Said Daphne. Zoinks! Said Shaggy. Scooby just fainted. Now I'm starting to get an idea of what's going on around here, Fred exclaimed. Gold, silver, diamonds, and rubies. The cavern was filled with the treasure fit for a king. Come on, gang. Those cats will be right behind us, Fred said. Let's find a way out of here. But aren't we going to do something about this treasure? Asked Shaggy. That's exactly what we're going to do, Fred answered, as soon as we're back up to ground level. Velma was looking in a different tunnel than the one they'd come through. This passage looks like it goes all the way up. Wake up, Scooby. Let's get going. When they got back up to the surface, Fred explained his plan. As they listened, Scooby and Shaggy became very unhappy. No way, Fred. Shaggy shook his head. Scooby and I aren't going anywhere near those cats. It's in our contracts. It's called the Claws Clause. Right, agreed Scooby. Would you do it for some Scooby snacks? Velma smiled. Velma smiled, waving the tempting treats in front of them. As usual, Shaggy's and Scooby's stomachs won over their heads. They soon agreed to do as Fred asked. Later, at the mouth of the cave, the cat creatures came looking for the kids who had invaded their secret caverns. The cats were shocked when they saw what walked out of the jungle and right up to them. Like howdy, a cat that looked like Shaggy said. We're new in the neighborhood, and we were wondering if we could borrow a cup of catnip. Yeah, agreed the cat that looked kind of like a dog. Velma and Daphne had decorated Shaggy and Scooby to look like cats. They used vines and palm fronds for the costumes. The cat creature snarled and chased Scooby and Shaggy. The creatures were so distracted by the crazy cat costumes, they didn't notice what the other kids were doing. As soon as Shaggy and Scooby led the cats away, Fred pulled on a vine. Several logs the gang had collected came rolling down a hill, right at the cats. Now it was their turn to dodge the runaway tree trunks. The cats snarled and hissed as they tried to avoid the logs. But as soon as they got away and started chasing Raggy and Scooby again. Now Velma went into action. As soon as the cat creatures were under the tree she was hiding behind, Velma pulled on another vine. Dozens of coconuts came pouring out of the tree. The kids had made a net and filled them with coconuts. Now they were running down on the cats and hitting them hard. Like that's using the old nut, Velma, Shaggy cheered. Yeah, yeah, agreed Scooby happily. The cats were snarling more than ever. They ran under the tree right next to Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby. Velma pulled another vine. Another net opened, raining more coconuts on the confused creatures. The cat creatures were in a panic now. They ran to a clearing where there were no trees down by the river. When they were close enough, Daphne pulled on a vine that was like a trap wire. Splish, splish! The cat creatures tripped and went flying into the cold water. Help! I can't swim! Yelled one of the creatures. Me neither! Cried another. Like, I knew cats hated water, but I've never heard of them call for help before. Shaggy laughed. Scooby joined in. The gang pulled the wet cats out of the water and tied them up. Unmasked, they turned out to be McGurty and the other scientists. Let me guess, said Velma. You discovered the hidden treasure and decided to keep it for yourselves. You came up with the cat creature disguise to frighten away anyone who came snooping around, added Daphne. And you used explosives to give the illusion that the volcano was active so no one would think of looking around, Fred concluded. McGurty sneered. It would have worked too if it weren't for you meddling kids and that dog of yours. Later, after they'd handed the cats over to the authorities, the kids showed Professor Peabody where the Mayan temple was. Then they led him down to the treasure cavern. Thanks so much, kids, said the professor. I am forever in your debt. Think of all the archaeological research in store for us. Like, I'd rather think of all the Scooby snacks we have in store for us. Right, Scooby? Shaggy patted his best pal on the head. Scooby-Dooby-Doo! Cheered Scooby. The end.